So if they're going to land in the river, they don't even need to discuss that. They know what to do. If they're going to glide to Teterboro, there is a little bit of help that Airbus gives them. There's a little green dot on the forward panel that helps them fly what we call L over D max, lift over drag maximum. That's going to be the most advantageous airspeed to hold if you want to get the maximum distance over the ground when you've lost your engines. All they have to do is line these two dots up. So procedure 1, to put it in the water, they know what to do. Procedure 2, to glide to Teterboro, they know what to do. What they don't know is that there's not enough energy to make it to Teterboro, and if they'd tried that, they would have ended up in a housing development a mile short of the runway, and everybody would have died at 150 miles an hour in a bunch of brick homes. A lot of folks on the ground wouldn't have made it either. All they know is they've got a decision to make. And here's the point. Rather than let the attending, so to speak, reinvent everything and make it up all on the spot in accordance with his or her particular philosophical bent on how to practice the art of aviation, we said it's A or B. And these guys knew it. So we removed the need for them to be cognitively engaged with trivial matters and instead spend that 15 critical seconds deciding what to do. That's why they knew. That's why they were able to say, you know what? That's a gamble. This is life. We're going for the river. Because they knew if you put it in the river, everybody's going to get out. We know that. I know at ABC, and it was my own dear friend Robin Roberts just down the street here who basically saw this happen from her balcony and who said, you know, this is the miracle of the Hudson. It wasn't a miracle. It was what happens when you reduce the variables. And it's a lesson for us in healthcare, I think, as much as for aviation. Of course, you know what we do as Americans. We put somebody up on a pedestal and we immediately start throwing mud balls at them. This came out, and I must have gotten 5 instances of it in my email. When you look at all the things that you have to deal with, let me boil this down a little bit, if I may. How do we achieve safe practice in medicine? There are 2 major areas. One is best practices. And the National Quality Forum is just one of those things, the book I put up. And the second is collegial interactive teams, a situation in which people have a level playing field. They can deal with each other with professional respect. This is the only way we're going to get the information out of them. This is the only way we're going to get people to cooperate for a common goal. Standardization, as I say, is very important. But one thing we share in all of this is fear of the unknown, fear of doing something new that you weren't trained for. And I put this in aviation terms. This little clip I'm going to show you scares me as much as most of these things scare doctors and nurses.
Ladies and gentlemen, Flight 152 is now boarding to Honolulu.
Check, check, check. Business class.
Boarded, man.
Safety check.
This in here, and we're out of here.
All right, let's get the show on the road, boys.
Buckle up, dudes.
Good, close it up.
I'm tracking the luggage guys on screen.
Loading.
Lights. Stage.
Roger, you are cleared for takeoff.
Let's rock.
Get work done now. Communicate in less than a second with rugged Nextel Direct Connect phones, only on the Now Network.
You see the maniacal look on that captain's face? It's really frightening. What does it take for the safe practice of medicine? We had a brilliant paper come out just a few months ago in the New England Journal of Medicine. It's called Cottage Industry to Post-Industrial Care, the Revolution in Healthcare Delivery. This is a paper worth distributing to everybody you deal with. And the most pithy line there says, our current healthcare system is essentially a cottage industry of non-integrated, dedicated artisans who eschew standardization. That's where we are. That's what we've come from. That's what we've got to get away from. Now, we mentioned aviation. I know some of you are dead tired of hearing about aviation. The doctors in the room, I'm sure you really are weary of this, the aviation model, this and that. We're not smarter. We just, as I say, bloodied ourselves up enough that we had to learn a few things. But let me show you this, because I think it's interesting that even though we have a tremendous number of aerial operations per day, we still have things go right most of the time. This is, every yellow dot on there is a commercial airliner. This is over the planet, 24 hours in the life of commercial aviation on the planet. You'll notice, by the way, that every major city can be spotted by the air traffic coming in and out of it. Certainly Honolulu over to the left, the United States. Now you can see daylight is coming to Europe, and Europe will explode here in air traffic, and you'll begin to see a probe of air traffic going from Europe to the U.S. as dawn breaks across the North Atlantic. 3,400 flights every day over the United States alone. that are commercial. That doesn't take into account military and private. 3,400. And we never thought that we could go a year without having at least one accident. Now, as a matter of fact, Jim was talking about getting to zero and how squeamish that makes us in talking about that figure. And Jim, I mean, you know, you're absolutely right. It makes us all squeamish. How can we get to zero VAPs? How can we get to zero injuries? How can we get to zero of anything that we want to eliminate? Well, we had that philosophy in aviation. Here I am, the aviation analyst for ABC, and I used to counsel our people that, well, it's just like we said in the mid-'80s, you know, there's always going to be something. And by 1989, by the way, we were slapping ourselves and saying, wait a minute, if we don't aim for zero, exactly what you were saying, if we don't aim for zero, we've got no hope of getting anywhere close. Do you realize that we went from the loss of American 587 just over the river in Queens here in New York, 5 years before an accident in Lexington, Kentucky, and we didn't kill a single solitary passenger in United States airline service. 5 years. We have 3,400 flights a day. In every one of those airplanes, minimum two carbon-based human beings with the capability of making a mistake at any time and becoming the last hole in the last slice of Swiss cheese that allowed a vector of disaster to come all the way to fruition. Now, the point is this. Again, by no means are we smarter in aviation than medicine. Quite the contrary. We're a lower level. We're pretty mechanistic. But if we can do that with what is essentially an incredibly high-risk industry that depends on human beings, the lessons there for us in what is in front of you on a daily basis, vis-a-vis your nurses, vis-a-vis your doctors, vis-a-vis the operations of the American hospital, this is a profound tale because it does say that if you meld the tactics with the strategy and the overall philosophy, if you understand that it is a matter of getting people to talk to each other, it is a matter of getting a level playing field, it is a matter of finding out what happens in the front ranks and of not just sitting there being frustrated in your office because people won't talk to you anymore or people won't tell you now that you've got this position. And then for the UCMOs, you know, you crossed over to the dark side once you take that position. You know, I'm very, very well schooled in this. The fact is we can break through that, and you must, because we've got to change this up or Congress will do it for us, and we will not like the result. I've been saying this to docs alone for the past number of years, and we're beginning to see the beginnings of this kind of intolerance already. We don't want a dictated methodology of practicing medicine, but the public tolerance is at zero, and we've got to do things differently. Matter of fact, this is the most dangerous phrase I think we've got in medicine, the most dangerous phrase that I think you deal with on a daily basis. Quote, this is the way we've always done it, end quote. Anybody disagree? One person disagree? No, you don't disagree. Okay. Yes, we have no bananas. Sorry, okay. You know what our most dangerous phrase in aviation is, don't you? Some of you have heard me say this. Quote, watch this, end quote. You don't ever want to hear a pilot say that. Those have been the last words on a number of voice tapes.